I recently picked up some new Ear Pro. The ones I was using were these Howard Light by Honeywell. These are the Impact Sport. Now, at the time I bought these, I thought they were pretty much the best options available that were not over like $150. These cost about $60 at the time I purchased them. These are electronic. They do have a little battery compartment right here. Now this one does take two AA batteries. They function relatively well for what they are. At the time I did have an iPhone 6, so having this little auxiliary 3.5mm pin jack was pretty nice. Of course, phones remove that feature, so that kind of quit being useful. It does have this basic on and off volume control. You can hear it click there, turn up the amplification, and then of course just turn it off when you're done. One thing I didn't like about these is it was advertised as stereo, two microphones, but realistically when you turn them on, you can only really hear this one amplified, especially like if you run your finger across that little sponge. And this one, not so much. It's almost like it's not amplified at all. I thought I just got a bad set, so I returned them, exchanged them for another brand new pair, put a brand new battery in them, not even the same batteries, and exact same issue. But they worked relatively well. I just left it as is and went on about my day. They're comfortable enough, about as comfortable as any other pair that was out there. The only added feature was, of course, the portion of it being electronic, which at that point was a selling point for me. That, and I thought, investing a little bit of money on some headphones or ear protection wasn't the worst thing I could do with my money. These lasted up until today. They still work as well as they did when they were new. Again, not saying a whole lot, but they still function. So I'm going to keep them in case another shooter ever goes out with me. I do have an extra set of hearing protection for them. What I picked up was the Walker Razor Extreme Digital Low Profile Quad Muffs. Now, the main two selling points on this for me personally was the Bluetooth capability and the quad microphones. On my original ones, if I was at the pistol range, the way we have it set up at my local range is if I'm at the pistol range, I'd aim these towards the front. That way, when I'm shooting, all I got to do is slightly turn my head left or right, and I could pick up the amplified sound in case anyone ever called a ceasefire. At the rifle range, I would flip them and turn them so that the microphones were aiming to the rear, because the range officer would walk across the back, kind of just telling everybody it's a ceasefire. I heard it right away. So that's how I used to do that. Now I don't have to do that. I could just put them on. It doesn't matter which direction they go. I hear from all sides. The more and better you hear, the safer I think it is. The Bluetooth portion of it was so I could listen to music. No more headphone jack, but I still missed my music. I will say that to activate these, you press and hold down that button for about 7 seconds. It starts the Bluetooth pairing process. Go to your phone, look for the headphones, click on them, it'll connect, simple as that. One thing that I did find out is once you get them connected, you put your music on your phone, you can adjust it. This outer control is for the amplification of the microphone. So people are being a little too loud near you, you don't want to hear their constant chatter, maybe it's going over your music. You can kind of turn this down a little bit. Or if they're at a good level, but you just kind of want to tune them out still, you could increase this second wheel, and that is the gain for your device. In my case, it was my phone. So my phone was about halfway, audio wasn't as loud as it should be, and then I realized, oh, this is just down, so I turned that up a little bit, and that took care of that issue. So I do like that this does have an auto shut-off feature. You can program it for 2 hours, 4 hours, or 6 hours. I have mine set for 2 hours. I'm usually pretty good about turning them off anyway, but I'm sure people have forgotten to turn them off, and then all of a sudden they go to the range the next time around to find that they have a dead battery. Not too many people carry extra batteries with them, at least I don't. And I've never seen anyone have at AA or AAA style batteries. They typically have 2032s, for their red dots, things of that nature. One of the features I also liked about these headphones is this mesh. Now I'll put a picture of it in here, but this mesh really does help keep your head cool. Unlike the Howard Light ones, which are that just plastic, the plastic really just, once you sweat, if anything, for me personally, it feels like it makes me sweat even more. But it does feel gross because this plastic is just covered in your sweat. It gets wet, and of course you have to wipe it down, especially if you take them off. Maybe you walk in the store, use the bathroom, whatever, you come back out, you put them on again. It's all wet, so are the actual ear pads. So having it being made out of material and mesh really did help. I almost thought that they would get all sweaty and just full of moisture, but they don't. So that was a really nice thing to find out. The other thing I really liked is the ear pads. I don't know if this shows up on camera, but that's actually pretty deep. My ear sits in there really well. It creates a nice little cushion for my ear. It really isolates it. And this gel pad isn't really gel, at least it doesn't feel like it. It feels like just a really soft foam. Is very, very comfortable. Most EarPro, when I put them on my ear, after about 20-30 minutes of shooting, it really does start to bother my ear. You notice it more, or at least I do, when I take them off at the end of my day. These didn't do that at all. These were comfortable the entire time. And what I really liked, it creates a nice little suction or little vacuum when you put them on without really pressing in on your head. I have had headphones, or borrowed headphones I should say, that when you put them on, they do, dampen out a lot of the sound, but they really press on your head. You feel it the entire time, especially when you're wearing safety glasses that aren't sunglasses, so the little stem that goes over your ear is a little bit thicker usually, or at the very least harder. But these didn't do that. So those are the really awesome features that I found on it, was the mesh and the really soft gel pad. The auto shut off is great, so is the Bluetooth, so is the quad microphone. They are advertised as slim, but realistically they're about the standard size for most shooting headgear. I believe they're slim just in comparison to those industrial type ones that you would expect to find someone using like at an airport. So compared to those, they're definitely slim, but not much different than a standard, set of EarPro. Now, as I was mentioning, the ear pad on the Walker is a lot deeper. I don't know if that shows, but it sits right here. That's the actual plastic, and the speaker's right behind it. It's not that deep, pretty shallow, and this is kind of stiff. Part of the reason it kind of hurts my ears, that little inner ring plastic is still a little bit on the stiff side. This outer part, of course, presses against your head, but this inner part is just pressing against my ear the entire time. Just, again, not the biggest thing, but when you do try something better, you realize how much better it is and how bad your old ones really were. You can almost tell just by looking at them how much stiffer this one looks. Now this one is worn and used. I'd expect it to be, if anything, softer, but of course that's not the case. So this is deeper. It doesn't feel like it's any wider, but it definitely is. You can kind of see it there. Obviously this one's got a little bit of wear to it, but just overall, it is a little bit thicker on the cushion. And the reason I say that is because even when my Howard Lights were new, they didn't feel that firm, that thick. And by firm, I mean the way it looks, because realistically it's really soft as far as the gel goes. So even there, it really creates a good suction. These are awesome. I think they're a little overpriced. I bought these, they were just north of $130. They do make a regular stereo version. I don't believe it has Bluetooth, and they are approximately $60 if I recall, maybe just a little over. This one also has that little compartment, also utilizes AA batteries. They do last quite a bit. I don't think I've had any run outs that I can recall, even on the Howard Lights, but again, I'm pretty good about just turning them off as soon as I'm done. If you are looking to get EarPro, I would recommend these Walkers, just the brand itself. These specific, if budget's not an issue and you have that little extra to spare, I'd go for the Bluetooth. I will let you know that when I did have the Bluetooth on my phone, the audio did cut out a few times. I originally thought it was my phone losing signal, so I put on music that I had downloaded on my phone. It did that again. Then I paid special attention, thinking, okay, maybe the audio is being muted when people around me are firing, which if you've had electronic ear pro, you know that it kind of mutes it out when there's a lot of gunshots going off, especially if you've ever tried to have a conversation with someone just across from you and other people are shooting. You'll notice that every other word gets kind of muted out. But that wasn't the case. There were times where no one was shooting and it did kind of cut out. I only had that issue that one time, so I don't know what that was. But keep in mind, I've only used these on 2 range trips, a total of maybe an hour and a half total. But I think these are awesome. The Walker is very clean as far as the sound, very crisp, and it does work. I mean, regardless of whether or not I use earmuffs that are electronic or not, I still like to use the earplugs. I just think it helps with the overall sound and of course concussion. When you're shooting in those, well, depending on where you're at, if you are at an indoor range, you probably have those really small stalls. And if you're an outdoor range, I'm not really sure how yours is set up. Not all of them are open. So those walls can be relatively narrow. So when you're shooting your gun, it really kind of amplifies the sound of the gunshot. So I like to use both. Prevents a headache. I would recommend these if you're looking for some ear pro. Electronic ones are just a little bit better. I can say that from my experience, all electronic ear pro has been a little bit better. If you don't want to worry about batteries, anything failing on them, they still work as regular earmuffs